Hey everyone, and welcome to this Dota 2 video about 5 interesting builds that we're seeing in the Stockholm Major. And we're going to be talking about 5 really interesting builds where, heroes are being played outside their positions, and I think that it's pretty fascinating. So we're starting today with Bet Boom versus Beast Coast. This is from day 1, and what's interesting about this is that Beast Coast actually went with a position 3 Keeper of the Light. This is kind of uncommon. There was a point in time where Keeper of the Light was being played mid pretty frequently, not so long ago. And obviously he's a position 4 almost always, but Offlane Keeper of the Light, you don't see that very often. And what's interesting about this, if we actually jump ahead a little bit, we're actually going to see that Whisper was leading the way in net worth for his team. He was significantly farmed, and this is something you would expect from a Keeper of the Light. Keeper of the Light takes up a lot of the map, he's extremely mobile, and what's interesting about it, even though he has immense movement speed, he actually did go earn into Boots of Travel. This allowed him to have an immense map pressure, capable of kind of counter-pushing the Nature's Prophet, who obviously has a tremendous amount of map pressure as well. But the problem is that for Beast Coast, this didn't really translate into a win at all. It ended up being that their team ended up getting stomped as the Slardar simply was able to counteract the Sven pretty significantly. But in team fights, he also didn't go Ags, right? So the Ag Scepter is kind of like the key team fighting item for the Keeper of the Light. It provides the Will-O-Wisp that has that kind of stunning effect, but he didn't do that. He tried to be kind of like the counter to the Nature's Prophet. And while that works to a certain extent, when it came to the end of the game here, they just didn't have enough. They didn't have enough. The Slardar was absolutely massive. He was right-clicking everyone down, and they weren't able to actually kind of pull through with an advantage. What you're seeing here is a situation where you have a Nature's Prophet top net worth, you have a Keeper of the Light top net worth, and then the Sven literally way down the list. So it was one of those situations where Keeper of the Light took up a lot of the map. Could one argue that Keeper of the Light took out too much of the map for Sven? That's up for debate, and I'll let you higher MMR guys decide that. But either way, I thought that Keeper 3 was a really interesting selection in the pro meta. The next hero we're talking about is Doom, and we're not talking about Doom Offlane, and we're not talking about Doom mid like we saw in TI10. It's Doom position 4. I thought this was really interesting, and Thunder Predator's Matthew was the first one to pull it out, later followed by Coccia. So we're seeing 2 instances of Doom position 4 already in the tournament, which I think is really fascinating. With regards to his build, it was interesting because he was being super active. He was spending a lot of time rotating mid. He was really trying to help out Dark Mago a lot, who was on his mid tiny. He spent a lot of time mid, went early phase boots, took value points in each of his skills, Devour, Scorched Earth, and Infernal Blade. Ultimately goes with the Hurl Boulder in order to, get that little stun. But you're going to see he's going to be focusing in on a Scorched Earth. Eventually, he actually gets the Tome, gets his level 6, and the first thing they do is they run directly at Zai. Right? This is an Offlane CK. Doesn't even commit to Doom. Doesn't even commit to Doom because it's such an easy kill. And what's he doing? He just wants to Doom guys. So he's looking for a play to make, but also realizing that the Doom is a long cooldown here. Goes to find the play, finds the play, drops the Doom, right? Drops the Doom there on the Ember Spirit, completely immobilizing one of the most mobile heroes in the game. Ember Spirit goes down, and Thunder Predator Matthew is having a tremendous impact on this team fight already from the position 4, soft support position. Boxy gets away, but at the end of the day, it's really interesting to see a hero like this being played, a traditional carry being played in the support position. And I think this is one of the coolest things about these major metas, where you're getting kind of the meta from all over the world kind of intermingling, and we don't see this in NA. I've not seen this in NA, and now we're seeing it. So I think it's really fascinating. When you cut to the late game, a game which they ultimately win, you're going to see that he actually goes BKB. He can afford it with Devour. BKB, Blink Force Staff. He's got the War Stomp from the Centaur. He's basically playing a Blink Initiator, which is exactly what you see here. He ends up dying, but they end up getting the kills, right? But it's pretty interesting to see this type of playstyle where you're looking at a hero who traditionally is being played as a carry, but now is seeing play as a support. In your pubs, if you pick position 4 Doom, do guys flame a bit? They probably will. But with this setup, you see exactly what he's going for. Blink, stun, and then you have your Doom while you're doing a tremendous amount of damage to Scorched Earth. And then you follow up with an additional stun, right? So he has a tremendous amount of lockdown. And then we have Tundra. What they did was a little different. They actually went Coccia position 4 Doom, and they went with position 5 Grimstroke for the obvious Soulbind and Doom combo. And the result is something like this, where you have at 23 minutes a Doom on the Terrorblade, and the team just knows it's time to go. You go on the Terrorblade, you blow him up completely. This was a game where, EG got completely destroyed. Artur could not get away. He's down, and the game was basically over almost immediately after this. And part of the reason why was because Skitter got near free farm. You had tremendous synergy between Snake King and the Doom from Coccia. And honestly, it worked extremely well. And I mean, everybody in pubs realizes that when you couple Doom and Grimstroke together, like, there's a lot of potential with those two ultimates, but, you know, seeing it in the pro meta is something to behold. T1 is known for being incredibly inventive with their lineups, and at the Stockholm Major, this has been no exception. What's interesting about this is that you don't often see Windranger position 1, which is exactly what Gabby did. And against a Naga Siren, I'm going to tell you right now, if you did this in a pub, you're getting banned. You're getting reported. You're going to get Overwatch banned, because people just can't handle something like a Windranger position 1. But T1, sorry, no problem at all. And what's interesting about this is that, like, if you actually look at the lineup, Zephyr is the only melee hero on their lineup. It's all ranged heroes. And so it's really unique to see Windranger. I mean, Slacks is probably furious at something like this. But Windranger position 1, how did it do? Well, the honest truth is that it didn't do so hot. So if you actually cut to the laning stage here, Gabby did pretty good early on, but ultimately kind of fell off rather rapidly and never really caught up in terms of net worth. This game was really won by Carl playing his signature hero on the Lina mid. Absolutely destructive on Lina mid. And I know while we're talking about the position 1 Gabby's Windranger right now, it's worth noting that, like, really this game was carried by Carl. Gabby did have a good presence in the fights, but what you'll see is that if we cut ahead a little bit here, her net worth really drastically dropped off. And, like, look, so she's, as a position 1, she's well underneath everyone else. Arteezy is significantly ahead, and that advantage only legitimately gets further and further ahead. And then what you end up getting here is you get a bit of a team fight at about 14 minutes. And, you know, you're going to see the elusiveness of Windranger position 1. She's a farmed core, and, you know, she's hard to take down. She's very elusive. You're going to see the Pugna come, give her a quick heal. She's back in. It's one of the reasons why people love Pugna. Then they ultimately get a kill on the Tiny. And you're going to see with the Javelin, she doesn't have a Javelin. She actually rushed, yes, she's the Maelstrom, sorry. With the Maelstrom, she's able to do a tremendous amount of damage up front. And obviously do, you know, take down that support. The advantage of going Maelstrom, obviously, as a core, is that it synergizes extremely well with Focus Fire. But ultimately, what ends up happening here is that they end up, you know, making some good plays, having some good team fights, and she goes Blink Lincoln's BKB with the Maelstrom. And what you're going to see here is that, like, it's Carl versus Arteezy. Windranger's well behind. Like, Windranger is much less of a factor than she'd like to be. And Carl is absolutely out of control right now. And so, could the experiment have been a failure? I think it could have been. If Carl didn't have the game they did, then perhaps, you know, Gabby's play here would have looked a little more sus. But ultimately, like, you're talking about a top-tier player playing a role with a hero that is not commonly seen, and I think that's really cool. Like, Carl definitely carried this game, and, you know, I'm gonna say that perhaps the position 1 Windranger, maybe not ready for prime time quite yet, but it was really cool to see T1 and Gabby pull it out for the major crowd, because you know, you love to see really inventive stuff, and I think that's what makes these majors so exciting, right? You get players from different regions coming together, and they're willing to take chances with heroes, with off-meta stuff to really try and, like, you know, do something interesting for the fans, and that's exactly what we got here. Alright, so I was watching this draft live, and I gotta tell you, I was losing my mind, because first of all, I love seeing Razor position 1. I almost included Razor position 1 in this video, but I decided not to. I'll talk about it another time. But I see Tidehunter, right? And everyone's like, oh, it's Tidehunter Offlane. What are they gonna pick for mid? Then boom, Beastmaster drops, and all of a sudden they're like, okay, Beastmaster mid. Is the Ag Scepter thing back? Are we gonna see Beastmaster mid? And then Armel locks in Tidehunter mid. And then Twitch chat goes insane. My mind is spinning. I'm thinking, okay, hold on. Tidehunter mid. Is he doing kind of like the Deso, Ag Shard, Tower Rush type thing? Or is he rushing Ag Scepter? What's the play here? If anybody can make Tidehunter mid work, it's going to be Armel. So what's the play? And so what's interesting about this is that his laning stage kind of sucked, honestly. And I thought this was really interesting. He did not lane particularly well. You can see he's pretty low on net worth here. His laning stage went pretty rough against the Lina, which could kind of have been expected. Lina has tremendous range, tremendous presence, and it's a Quinn Lina, right? So Armel kind of got demolished in the lane a little bit. But what do they have? They have Shadow Shaman. So what do you think they do? What do you think your boys do? Well, you know they're going to sneak into Roshan as soon as they can. And what they're going to do here is they're going to clear mid out. They're going to grab the rune, and then they're going to smoke. Give me that sweet smoke, and they're going to smoke right into Roshan. So great This guy has to get nerfed eventually, right? But whatever. Until then, enjoy Shadow Shamans, your ability to take down Roshan, Borderlines solo. But so RML's here taking Roshan down, but TSM, they know, they do the scan, they get it. And here's the advantage of having a Tidehunter. You got that beautiful, beautiful Ravage coming out. Now this guy, he's got like, RML's got no items. He's basically nude at this point. He's got a huge Ravage, and that's kind of the cool thing about Tidehunter. Even if he's a little underfarmed, you're still relatively tanky with your Kraken Shell. You do have a great team fight ultimate. He is going the Ag Scepter Rush, which is exactly what I kind of expected earlier on. I would have liked to see something cool like the Deso right-click kind of carry crap that you can see from a Tidehunter. Like, I was really hoping for that, but I did expect to see the Ag Scepter. But here's the thing, and I want the higher MMR people in the chat to kind of hit me with this, because I struggled to identify the key benefit of Tidehunter mid here, because I feel like he didn't do anything that a Tidehunter offlane couldn't do. Like, he does go BKB, he did get a good timing on the Ags, but you could have not done that from the offlane. You know, he didn't necessarily get the early levels. Like, he wasn't able to kind of have that much of an impact. His farm is really low, especially in comparison to Quinn. It seemed like a rough Tide game, but still an interesting selection, and that's what we're talking about in this video. I'm not trying to illustrate that like, oh, these are like completely broken and this is going to win every game. I think this is your interesting conversation points. This did not necessarily work very well, and they end up going for a second Roshan here as soon as it comes up. It's actually bugged. What's going on here? What's going on? Where's my Roshan? I'll find it. Give me a sec. All right, I found it. Here's your smoke into Roshan play at 23 minutes. So they do it again. They have the they have the Shadow Shaman, so they know they can take it tremendously fast. And RML, it's Blink Ags. That's it. It's all it is. Blink Ags BKB eventually. And but the Ags are so tremendous, and the talents he's picking all the Gush-based talents. He knew he was going this Ags from the start. He gets the huge Ravage off, and like, this is the benefit, right? This is the benefit of having a Tidehunter mid. But realistically, it's the Medusa that has to ultimately carry this game, because he fell off. He fell off. And what I was saying prior is I would love to hear from the higher MMR people in the comment section. Like, what is the true benefit of Tidehunter mid? Like, we were talking about the Windranger before really not performing up to snuff. And now we kind of have a similar situation here. We see an interesting pick with RML going Tidehunter, but realistically, like, I didn't feel his presence. I didn't feel like the Tidehunter mid was what this game needed. You know what I mean? It was one of those situations where oh, the camera's messed up. My bad. Where, like, it seems like maybe you should have picked something else, right? So I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts on the matter. With that being said, they do ultimately march up high ground and win this game. You know, it was a great game overall. Anytime you know, Undying's playing, it's always a great game. One of my favorite teams to see play. I could watch Dubu stream all day long. Another huge Ravage. Like, don't get me wrong. Once he gets Shiva's BKB, like, he has like a presence in these fights. He's tanky, right? He's taking a ton of damage. His the armor reduction is huge for Medusa to do all that physical, extra physical damage, right? He has a presence. I just wonder about if it could have, you know, did you need it? Did it need to be mid? That's all. That's all I'm wondering. They ultimately win this game. Fnatic played an amazing game. Medusa, it's hard to counter a 40k net worth Medusa. But either way, RML's mid-tide, pretty damn interesting. I gotta tell you, I've been loving Beast Coast, man. I love watching Beast Coast. And when I saw Smile pick up Venomancer mid, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Chris Luck going Venomancer mid. What is his plan? And it was one of those situations again where, like, you know, you talk about the Tidehunter, you talk about all these other heroes that didn't quite perform as well. What's Venomancer mid gonna do? This is gonna be pretty interesting, no? So let's cut to it. So first of all, I'm seeing Venomancer mid. I'm like, against a Jackboy CK, against Yopaj GK. Like, I'm like, man, I don't know how this is gonna work. But then again, it's Beast Coast, and they've been absolutely insane lately. So I had to watch. I was like, I have to watch this game. Like, there's no way I can let this game just slip by. And the laning stage was fine. It was fine. So he focused on getting Venomous Gale first. It was a little bit of a rough laning stage. He definitely lost to the mid DK. The mid DK definitely got the best of him, which, I mean, this has been consistent now. The Tide lost mid, right? Actually, the only one that really won their lanes outright was the Keeper of the Light we talked about. But regardless, Venomancer was pretty interesting to see mid as well. He focused on the Venomous Gale, took the Plague Wards after, and then started taking over the jungle and stuff like that. But you can see, like, the Dragon Knight's just shrugging things off. And with the amount of regeneration that he's capable of, 20, literally he's at 20 regen right now. The ticks of Venomous Gale do damage to him, but, like, it just wasn't quite enough to really solidify this laning stage. And until he got the Plague Wards going, he started to kind of like pick up on the jungle areas and stuff like that. But overall, he was significantly behind. Significantly behind, and was definitely losing the lane. With that being said, when it came time to fight, he was ready. He ultimately was going towards an Exum Scepter. You know, there was some fights happening here. He ends up dying just like in a little bit of a team skirmish a little earlier on, but I actually missed it here. But what you can see is the timing before he has his eggs done, just barely 20 gold. They get into a fight. He pops his ult, and he just goes down. But what you can see is like his net worth, he actually ends up catching up a bit in this winning game, which you know, you love to see. Ultimately, it's a team fight that ultimately goes his team's way. Actually, I should take that back. It does not go his team's way. His team gets absolutely demolished. Untouchable, not really, as that Enchantress gets destroyed, and then obviously their carry K1 goes down pretty hard. So this was a pretty big swing in the favor of Boom. But then what you end up getting is his Ags. So he does go Ags. He ends up getting it. This allows him to do increased amount of damage with Poison Nova. I was expecting a Blink to come out, but the game kind of ended a little faster than I think Boom would have expected, because ultimately they get in there, they get a pretty good kill here, and then you're gonna get a pretty solid initiation right here. He's gonna use his spider legs to get into position, and you're gonna see a huge ult that's gonna do a tremendous amount of damage to their whole team. Right at this point, if he dies, he dies. It doesn't even matter, because like that Ag's ult is ticking away. They wiped this whole team, right? Everyone's going down. Skem's gonna go down. They're chasing everyone down, and they ultimately end up winning this game by a pretty fair margin here as we move towards them going high ground. And you know, ultimately, you love to see it. And Chris Luck, his farm was okay, but like in some ways, I kind of felt like in a winning game, he kind of felt like a really farmed support. So I guess the verdict's out as to whether or not mid Venomancer is legitimately viable. I mean, Venomancer is one of those heroes that like I want to love playing, but every time I play him, I either feed like crazy. I'll go like literally 1-14, or I go 14-1. Like there's no middle ground with Venomancer. So I'd like to hear your guys' opinions. Anyways, guys, I thought this was gonna be an interesting video. I just want to showcase some of the interesting picks that I've been seeing. And, you know, I just want to talk about a little bit. I'd be really interested in your discussion down below in the comments. I by no means am an expert on the meta. I just love analyzing it and love hearing your thoughts on it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next Dota 2 video.